Welcome back to Trade Up with TJ. Got a great guest on today, Jack Rotheram. Welcome, bro. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for cutting out time in your day and coming down here and talk some shit and hear a bit about your journey and a bit about the background of where it all started, the weight loss side, being in the construction game and jumping into the coaching world and growing into the person you are today.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think this will be a good conversation. I like this. I think it'll be good.
So let's wind us back. And for those that probably haven't heard a bit about your journey, back to 2019. And where was Jack and who was Jack back then before it all sort of started and the flick switch?
Yeah. So back in 2019, I was working construction. I was a labourer at the time, working my way up to a leading hand. I weighed 158.8 kilos, just fat, just a bread roll. That's just what I look like, just walking around a site. Um, when I think back on it, everything sucked. Like I went home with aches and pains everywhere. I would be just sweating flat out, lay two pipes and I'm dripping in sweat. Like it's just not fun and it just wasn't an enjoyable experience. So I used to work pretty hard as a labourer. I was the only labourer for our crew in the southeast at the time. So because we're trying to break out into the southeast, the company I work for. And yeah, it was just big days, a lot of work, just agony every day. It was not fun. So, and then I think I stepped on the scale. When I stepped on the scales at 158.8, that's when I kind of said to myself, all right, something needs to change. Because, like, yeah, I still had fun with my mates and I was partying with them, whatever, having a good time. I still had a good job. But at the end of the day, when that's all taken away, what do I have? And I didn't have a healthy lifestyle. I didn't enjoy my lifestyle. I didn't enjoy waking up that heavy every morning. And I thought, realistically, I'm probably going to die pretty young if I keep going down this route. So, yeah, I kind of flipped the switch at that point in 2019 and I ended up dropping what did I drop? 69 kilos in total. So I got down to 89.8 kilos and now 6 years on, I weigh 135 kilos, but completely different looking physique. So yeah.
Literally. And let's go through a bit of that journey at that 100 and what was it, 58?
Yeah.
What was that like? Like, obviously, it would have been through school, through like getting into the work life and just sort of that, probably that unhealthy lifestyle you lived. Like, was there no clue of sort of food or anything? Like, it was just eat whatever you sort of felt like kind of vibe?
Yeah, so if we wind it back a little bit further and we go like through school, I was always a little bit of a heavier set kid through school. So I got bullied quite a bit, picked on quite a bit, and like I couldn't really care less now. But back in the day, that was no one wants to be bullied, no one wants to be picked on. And you just feel quite small. You don't feel like you got many friends, you feel kind of secluded. And my coping mechanism for that was eating. I emotional ate. And I didn't know, but I would. And mum and dad kind of just allowed it because they thought that's what is helping me get through my attitude or my emotions at that time. So I was putting on weight. Mum and dad are old school, grew up on farms, like, steak, veg for dinner, whatever type of stuff you want. But there was no like education around calories, macros, nutrition at all. It was just, this is what you get for dinner. Serve it up. You don't eat it. Bad luck sort of thing. But portion control and stuff like that probably was not a thing. It was just, you want more, go get more. So that's probably where it all started. I started gaining weight. And then, when I turned 18, I had that freedom. I had my license, go through Macca's drive-through whenever I wanted, or if I was out with the boys and they're like, oh, let's go get KFC. It's like, yeah, cool, whatever. Like you don't want to be left out of the group. So you just follow along and do whatever. And then drinking as well. So I used to drink a lot, like every weekend type of a lot. And I was always the person who could, like, I would drink a slab, no worries. And just a slab of beers and be like, yeah, cool. And I didn't know what calories were even really back then. So that kind of all led into just being super overweight. And then, yeah, you play it off a lot when you're with your friends and stuff. Like you make a lot of jokes and you might even make yourself the butt of the joke a little bit, like just have a laugh. But when it's all said and done, you go home and you're still not too happy with how you're feeling and how you look and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's where it all sort of started.
That's where it all
stemmed
started.
in. And when you stepped on those scales and sort of saw that weight, like, did something flick in your brain and you're like, fuck it, like, as you said, you're going to die young. I need to make a change in my life right now. Otherwise, I'm fucked.
Yeah, so it's funny. I stepped on the scales at 100. I reckon it was like 145 or something one day. I'm like, holy fuck, I better do something soon or I'm going to be pretty unhealthy. And I just didn't weigh myself for a few months, like a fair few months. And then I stepped on, I was 158.8. And I was like, fuck. I was like, nah, like something's going to change. I was like, I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm fat as fuck. Secretly, realistically, I'm depressed. I'm like, I want an enjoyable life. In truth be told, I tell everyone who asks this, like the reason I started losing weight was to get more girls as well. Like that was the biggest thing. And like, I don't care. That's literally half the reason. Like, people want to look good. They want to feel good. They want attention from other people. And as much as people should want to lose like weight or be fit for themselves, there's always external factors. And that was one of them for me. So yeah, I was pretty, I stepped on that scale and I was like, yeah, something's got to change. I walked into a gym, a little gym out in Druin. It's called Gregory's. It was the first place I ever trained at. And I walked through the door and the guy who owned the gym, he looked at me and he goes, do you want to sign up? Blah, blah, blah. And I said, yep, let's do it. And he goes, the hardest decision you'll ever make is walking through those doors for the first time. And I swear to that to this day, the hardest decision I ever made was to actually get the confidence to go into that gym. I signed up. He gave me a program. He wanted me to weigh myself on his scales. When I weighed myself on his scales, my weight wouldn't show up because I was too heavy. And he goes, the first goal for you is to get your weight to show on my scales. And he goes, then I'll give you a free like supplement out of his little supplement shelf that he had. So I was like, cool. And then that was just sort of the initial drive. And then what sort of kept me going is I had a friend of mine. She was very much into the health and fitness space at the time. Her family was as well. And she used to do meal plans and things like that just for herself. And she just sent them through to me. I still had no idea what a calorie was at this point or anything. And I was like, cool, I'll just follow these meal plans. And then I just made the meals and started eating them. And then I started losing weight. And I was like, okay, this is pretty good. And then it just kept like spiraling and snowballing. And then, yeah, that's sort of how it happened, I guess. So.
And then you probably start to feel a lot better in yourself, waking up a bit better, not as achy and sore, and obviously training and moving your body.
The biggest thing I realized especially for work, because I was still in construction at the time, is my energy levels were so much better. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be like, oh, I feel good, have a coffee, maybe a piece of fruit, go into work. I'd get into work early because I was able to wake up early, feel good. So I'd put the heater on for all the boys. I'd open the gates up, get everything sorted. I could go through the whole day working and come home and I'd still had energy to go to the gym and feel fine. And that's just because I was now so much more lighter. I was filling my body with better foods. And that's the difference. People don't realize it's as simple as just filling yourself with a little bit of better food will give you, like, I could go through the day with no issues at all. So yeah, that was a big one. That was a big thing.
Yeah. And then come to 2019, obviously you've stepped on the scales. 2020 signed up to the Next Gen Summer Challenge and sort of lost another 20 on there.
Yeah.
Like flicked another switch a little bit. Probably.
Yeah. Well, I signed up with that same friend who was doing the meal plans for me. So we signed up to that together. And I weighed in the first, so you do like an initial weigh-in to see what you weigh. And I told myself I wouldn't weigh myself for the whole, I think it was 10 weeks. Yeah, the whole 10 weeks. I wouldn't step on a scale again until the end. And that was just I think I'm a little bit of a psycho for things like that, because I'm like, that's something that should be very hard for people to do because they want to know that it's working. But for me, I was like, I don't want to know. I want to know at the end of the 10 weeks. And that's when I want to know. I want to delay that sort of that gratification and then see the change. And the hardest part through that 10 weeks is my body was changing, but I didn't realize. And I made a massive change. I dropped 20 kilos in that 10 weeks and my body changed. And that was like a lot. And at the end of it, I was taking my after photos. I'm like, I don't feel like I look any different. And everyone's complimenting me in this process. Like, you look so good. You look much like skinnier, whatever. And I'm like, I don't look any different. And then I put the photos together and I stepped on the scales. And I stepped on the scales and it said 20 kilos down. And I was like, can't be right. My scales must be fucked. I got off, got back on, said it again. And I'm like, okay. I put the photos together. I'm like, all right, it actually worked. And that's, I'm like, this does work. And I think being able to delay that sort of week to week gratification of maybe dropping a kilo or two here or there, I think that just ingrained in my head that, okay, I'm still progressing and I still have a lot more to go if I can drop 20 kilos in 10 weeks. So yeah.
Pretty crazy, isn't it, to think like that journey of just going from those nearly extreme weight to like the weight losses as well are probably pretty extreme. And as you said, a 10-week period, dropping 20 kilos.
Yeah, it's pretty full on.
It's pretty full on.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that to most people. But
correct. And then going through that as well and like just thinking of people sort of starting that journey and being probably in the shoes you are at sort of their weight, and obviously you're validating yourself and looking like you're all bubbly on the outside, but deep down you're fucking hurting, and as you said, they're depressed and that kind of things. What like advice would you give them, as well as like not looking for the quick fix for the weight loss side of things?
So if anything from my journey on it, I can always say the quick fix just doesn't exist. And if you're looking for a quick fix, it means you have to cut corners, which means you're going to have to redo it in the future because it won't last. And that's in building, in construction, in weight loss, in anything. That is the principle for everything. And I think for those people that want to start, but they think, you know, it's a certain type of diet, it's a certain type of training, it's a certain type of exercise, whatever. It's not. It's just start. I had no fucking idea what I was doing when I started. I was in the gym 7 days a week, 4 days a week training, 4 days a week heavy cardio, just trying to get something to happen. And at the start, nothing really happened, like a little bit of initial weight loss, whatever. And then I changed the diet up, and then that's when things started moving, and it's compounding. So you do one thing, you start, you get good at that. Let's add another element in, which is the food, and then you're good at both of those things, and now you start to see the weight dropping, and you start to feel better. And then, you know, the biggest thing is like how you look, and people think that's the biggest thing when they go to lose weight or go through a fitness journey. The biggest thing is how you feel, and you don't realize that until you start. So I was more confident, almost to the point where people would think I'm arrogant, because I'm just like, I'm way more comfortable in my own skin. I could shop at a normal shop to get clothes. I didn't have to buy clothes online that were stupid XL. It was like, I could go into, you know, any shop at Fountain Gate, and I could try something on, and I could walk out with it if I wanted to. And it's those little things and those mindset like changes that make it more worthwhile than what your body looks like. Because at the end of the day, there's people that could not give a fuck what you look like. Like, I walk into a gym now, and I'm a pretty big guy, and most of the people in that gym don't give a fuck. They don't care. They didn't care when I was skinny. They didn't care when I was fat. They don't care now that I've got some more muscle. They could not care less. And I think that's what people that are looking to start care about too much. So it's like, just start. You'll see some aesthetic results, but focus on that mindset shift, that happier. You'll actually want to go out with your friends more. You'll feel better. You'll fit into more clothes. You'll have more energy. Like, everything's better. So
yeah, life becomes a little bit easier from that side of things.
much easier, much easier. I got a promotion when I lost weight because my boss was like, he's all right. So, you know, and I think people don't realize that's a thing too. The more overweight you are, the less likely you are for promotions, the less you might get paid as well, because people don't think you can do your job as good. Like, it is a real thing. There is a real bias against fat people versus skinny people, realistically.
Yeah.
So
it sounds bad to say, but yeah, it comes from a true standpoint as
yeah,
the business side of the world, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. So
and then going into, say, 2021 and starting to work with a coach.
Yep.
And then obviously getting more of an understanding, instead of going to the gym 7 days a week and smashing yourself in cardio weights.
Yep.
And like actually getting an understanding of what nutrition is, how to train, how to recover. How'd you sort of find that transition as well? Where you're like, fuck, was I doing a lot wrong? But it's worked at the same time. Where you're like, what the hell's going on?
It's funny you say that. When you're that overweight, almost anything will work to start with. And then you hit a point where it doesn't. And that's when you need that help from someone like a coach, or at least someone who knows what they're doing. When I was on the Next Gen Challenge, the coach that was helping us with the group sessions on that challenge, when we finished, I asked him if he had any spots to sign up. He said no, he was full. And that's when I was like, damn. I changed gyms to the gym that he PT'd at. And I just trained at the same time that I knew he'd be there PTing. And I was like, I just want him to see that I'm serious and I'm committed. And that's goes back to, like, if you want the end goal bad enough, you'll just do what you've got to do to get there. Like, I missed a lot of social events and stuff to get there, but I don't regret any of it. And I just trained and trained and trained. I had my little notebook with my weights in it, what I was doing, and I just wanted him to see me because I wanted him to know that I was serious. And if I was paying money for him and he signed me up, he wouldn't regret it. 1, he'd get a good result. 2, I'd get where I want to be. Eventually, he come up to me, he goes, "I've got a spot. Do you want it?" I said, "Yep, done." Started working with him. He took full reins of everything for me, from nutrition to training to just everything in general. Checked in with him sort of once a week to make sure I was on track. I still remember, like, because I was learning so much about training and nutrition at the time, he would take the time to teach me as well, which was good. And you need someone to take the time to teach you, because otherwise you can't take it with you anywhere. And he was really good about that. And that changed my outlook on everything, that I was like, it doesn't have to be super strict. It doesn't have to be super hard. Like, I was still getting like an off-plan meal once a week. And then, like, yeah, it was easier in that sense, because I had no guesswork. Everything I was doing up to that point was guessing. Now it was like, this is what you do. This is how it works. Do it. And I'm like, sweet. So,
yeah, that's cool. And you mentioned there the off-plan meal. How, obviously you said the emotions when you're more overweight and going through that. How did you find that transition of like, all right, I've got the off-plan meal, and obviously cheat meals have become probably a better thing and a better understanding for back in the day. Back then, everyone would just go indulge and fucking nearly make themselves want to throw up because you'd be like, it's the only meal I've got off plan. I'm just going to load up on shit.
yeah.
How do you find that, obviously coming from the background and the relationship you sort of had with eating?
So I actually, if we go back to the Next Gen Challenge on this topic, once a week we were allowed a cheat meal. My friend and I, we would go pretty hardcore, and the cheat meal would be like a family box from Macca's with a tub of ice cream. Like, we're like, who cares? And I think doing that made me feel so sick all the time that I was like, nah, it can't be that. And once you start eating cleaner and cleaner foods, and then you want a cheat meal that's dirty, like something that you're not used to, you feel so crook, so sick. And eventually that like, I was like, I don't want to feel like that once a week. I'd rather feel good 7 days of the week. So I changed my attitude around cheat meals, that it doesn't have to be something dirty. It could just be something that I would like. Like, it could be something home cooked, but I just don't normally have, or I could buy it, or I'd go out to like a restaurant and get something decent cooked. It didn't have to be KFC or Macca's or fast food. It didn't have to be super greasy or deep fried or any of that stuff. It could be the same foods that I'm having, just a little bit nicer quality, nicer like sort of food. And I think more people would do better to understand that when you have an off-plan meal or a cheat meal, it doesn't have to be shit. It can be just something that you would really enjoy. It could be going home and getting something like mum used to make, something that you loved at home. Say, mum, can we have dinner on Saturday night? Can you make this? We're just going to mum's for dinner and having something you haven't had for however long. So simple stuff.
Yeah. And then obviously that would have mended that sort of relationship. As you said, you wanted to feel good for 7 days and not fucking like you nearly probably had a hangover.
Yeah.
And coming in and feeling like shit from just all the grease and all the shit you're indulging on in one meal. As you said, a family box and just loading up and eating the fucking thing as much as you can.
Yeah. No, it does. And I think I never treated it, this is going to be a controversial take, but people take everything too seriously. So when it comes to that stuff, like, I never treated food as, back when I was getting bullied and stuff, it was probably my emotional attachment back then. But when I was 18 plus, I was an adult. I was responsible for my own choices. And you can't blame anything on your choices except yourself at that point. So like, what you put in your mouth is your choice. And for me, it wasn't that deep. It was like, okay, I'm choosing to eat like shit. I'm just going to choose to eat better. It's doesn't have to be that serious. And I may not like it to start with, but I'm going to enjoy it because it's getting me to a point where I'm going to have a much more fulfilling life and lifestyle and just quality of life in general. And so quality of like the relationship with food with me was, at the start, it was a little bit rocky, like up and down. But then I'm like, it's my choice. Like, if I'm choosing to be a fucking pig, that's on me. I can't blame anyone else for that. And it's basically just slowing me down for my progression. And I already spent 18 years of my life basically being unfit, overweight, unhappy. And I'm now making massive leaps and strides to feel better and more comfortable and confident. Why would I just slow that down? So yeah, I think that's where my relationship with food was always, it was a little bit rocky at points, but then I sort of just flicked a switch in my head and I'm like, it's my choice. Like, I'm choosing to be upset if I go crazy with food. I'm choosing to have an attachment to food, and food is seen as a reward a lot, and it doesn't need to be. Food doesn't have to be the reward. There is other rewards. So
yeah, and it's become like a thing now, isn't it? It's like, as you said, the reward, the food, like people look at it, it's like, you see parents, it's the same thing, a bit controversial, but they're like, oh, you get a chocolate if you're good or something like that. And then we get trained from when we're little, and it's just the way, there's no handbook on how to be a parent, but it's like things our parents use with kids to like give them that incentive to be good. Yeah, it's like, then it instilled as you get older and older. It's like, oh, if I'm good, I get this. Or then, as you said, you get to 18 and you can reward yourself as much as you want because you got that free reign. So.
Exactly. And like back in the day, mum would be like, no dessert unless you eat dinner. So you eat dinner and you get dessert. I might have a little glass of soft drink with my dinner. Now I wouldn't touch a glass of soft drink because I'm like, that's too many calories to drink. That's ridiculous. I'd rather eat it. So yeah, you learn over time. And I think like, especially family events and stuff, especially are very heavily in Australia based around food, like going out to a pub, a restaurant, or having barbecues, or every big event for a family is usually around food. And like, there's times where I used to take my meal prep and just eat my meal prep and still have a good time with my whole family, because that's what the day's about. It's not about what we're eating for lunch. It's about whose birthday we're celebrating or whatever it may be. So yeah, I think it's just an attitude. And I think you can choose what attitude you have towards things. And I think most people just choose to have a shit one. So that's probably not a good opinion for a lot of people to hear, but fuck it, they need it. So.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you got to be blatantly honest.
Yeah, 100%.
Have that point direct, which is what you're like with most of your content, most of your coaching. You're all just pretty much straight to the point, but it's what people need to hear as well.
Yeah, and it's what I needed. Like, that's the thing. It's not like, I was never sugar-coated. No one ever babied me. Like, I was never told it's okay to be fat. I was never told it was, it's okay to have to buy your clothes online, or, I was never told any of that. It was like, you're fat. Don't be fucking fat. Like, it was that simple. And it's like, okay, so it's my choice not to be fat. It's no one else's choice. It's my choice. And if I don't want to be bullied, if I don't want to feel like sad and depressed about how I look, or I don't want to be the butt of all the jokes in the group, because if I don't make myself the butt of the jokes, someone else is going to make me the butt of the jokes, then I need to change that. And if you don't have someone if you've got a circle full of yes men, it's never going to work. You need someone to be able to tell you, like, no, you're being a fucking idiot. Pull the head in, pull the reins in. This is what you need, not what you want, but it's what you need, and this is what we're going to do. So, and I didn't have that. I sort of trained myself to have that before I got my first coach. And then he was very much like that with me. He was just like, well, this is what you want, this is what you got to do. And it's that simple. If you don't do it, you're an idiot. And it's that simple. Most people complicate it way too much, but yeah.
That's crazy. And how'd you find that, going obviously through that journey a little bit as well for yourself, and then going, all right, like, I want to get into this space, but as you said, you love the construction game, you nearly wanted to, and then sort of started looking into PTs and getting your head around that side of the world that you're in now?
Yeah. So originally I just loved training at the time, because realistically, if I'm honest, training saved my life. It did. And that's where I'll always love the gym. And that's where sometimes I don't relate to people that hate training, because I'm like, wow, like, training for me, it was the one thing that got me through some pretty dark times. So for me, I love training. And then I thought, I had an idea of where I'd love to own a gym one day, because I love the atmosphere. I love the environment. Like, through COVID, I hated training at home, because I was like, this sucks. There's no one around. There's no atmosphere. I like the atmosphere of gym. I like a gym culture if it's a healthy culture. So I was like, I'm going to buy a gym. And I was talking about buying a gym with my coach at the time, and they said, why don't you just become a personal trainer? Why don't you make a change? And at the time I was conflicted, because I really loved construction, because I love the boys I work with. I love the stories. I love the banter. Like, no one takes anything serious. You're all in the mud together. You're all working flat out together. Like, it's just a good time. So I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I can always do the course and just see where the wind takes me. So I was still working in construction and doing the Cert 3 and 4. And I didn't know if I was ever going to do anything with it, because I did love construction. At this point, I was a leading hand, so I was second in charge on sites, and I was bossing people around. That was pretty good fun. I like doing that. So I like yelling and telling people off if I needed to. So I never knew if I was going to do anything. And then I got a proposition to start coaching. And I thought, you know what? It was winter in construction at the time when I got the proposition. And I was like, you know what? If there's one time that I fucking hate construction, it's winter, especially civil, just lugging pumps around, draining sump holes and mud, and I was like, you know what? I'll try. So I picked up a couple clients in a gym, PTing, just a couple times a week, but I was still working construction. So I was still full-time construction. I just do this after work. So I ended up doing some pretty big days from that. Then my clientele base started growing and growing and growing. And then I dropped to a casual position at construction. And then I was working 3 days a week in construction. I was working 2 to 3 days a week as a personal trainer / coach. And then I got to the point where I was just doing too many hours a week, where I was like, I need to drop one or the other. And at this point, coaching was going really well. So I was like, let's drop construction. I can always come back to it as a fallback if it doesn't work out. I know that I'm good at it. I know that I know how to do whatever a company would need me to do. And I know I'm worth my money there. Let's just see how this works out. So that was my first big decision in life, I guess, was where I was like, I need to just make a complete career change and just see if it works. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Just take that leap of faith, sort of, and trust your instincts a little bit as well, and go on that journey.
Yeah, exactly.
And winding it back a little bit as well, and like going through, like, there's been a lot of weight loss journeys sort of up until now. When you come to probably your first build or going into a maintenance phase, how do you find that? Obviously, where you're like, fuck, like, I'm doing the opposite thing. My goal's always been to drop the scales, not build back up a little bit.
Yeah, I was a little bit shit scared the first time, if I'm completely honest, because I was like, I don't know what to expect, because I've never had to do it. So I'd spent, 3 years straight just losing weight, just dropping as much weight as possible. And then when I started to go through kind of like a maintenance / a build phase, I was like, I'm no longer in control at that point, because the weight's going to go up. I know it's going to go up. I just don't know what it's going to look like. And I think that was the biggest thing. Like, when you lose weight, you kind of know what it's going to look like. You're going to get fitter, you're going to get leaner, you're going to feel better. But when you're putting on weight, you don't know, are you going to get overly fat? Are you going to grow more muscle than what you think? Are you going to grow any muscle? At that time, I wasn't really well educated on how much muscle I would be putting on if I was. So I was a little bit nervous, but in the same token, I've had a coach ever since sort of after the Next Gen Challenge, and I've put full faith into the coach. And I think that's what's really helped keep me level headed, because if I trust the people I'm paying and I choose to work with, then I just need to listen to them, because at the end of the day, you need to believe that they're going to have your best interest at heart. And if I never believe that, I think emotionally and like mentally, I'd be a little bit more stressed and worse for wear. Whereas I just said, let's just see what happens and let's do it. At the end of the day, I'd lost 69 kilos in total. What's losing 10, 15, 20 after a massing phase if I need to? And that's how I looked at it. It's like, I've lost a human being before. I can drop a little bit less. So I looked at that and I just trusted it. And the first massing phase, honestly, I did get a little bit too fat. We started in a little bit of not a bad position, but not a great position. And I did get a little bit overly fat. And then my next massing phase and build phase after that, I looked the best I ever have at every new weight I touched. I looked the best I ever had, the leanest I'd been at that weight, etc. And I'm like, this is what it is. And then every time I do that now, I'll do another build. And every time I do that, I'm going to be leaner at that weight every single time. And that's what, now that I know that, and I've done the process once or twice, it's like, okay, that's how it works. It's easy. I don't have to worry now. So
yeah, understanding the process once you've been through it, like the same as with the weight loss journey, like you're getting the bits along the way and the nutrition that you're picking up along the way, all those things, you're getting your head around it to actually know what's going to happen or where you're going to be and what you're going to sit at as well.
Exactly. So yeah, it's the biggest thing. It's like, and I was always someone who I love jumping in the deep end, and some people hate that, but some people like it. And I jumped in the deep end. I'm like, I'm just going to try it, see what happens. You know, if you lose weight, you do that once or twice or three times, you know how to lose weight now. If you gain weight once or twice or three times, you know what to expect. It's the same with anything. Practice makes perfect with anything. And you know, when I started in construction, I didn't know how to lay pipes properly. Like I was putting in, 2-meter diameter pipes, like chuck them in, chain them up, whatever. And I didn't know how to do it at the start. I didn't know how to like set the laser up. Didn't know how to set the targets up. I was clueless. So it was a struggle, but then I started laying pipes more and more and more, and I got better and better and better. And at the end of the day, I could lay pipes just as quick as anybody else. So it's the same thing with weight loss and muscle gain at the end of the day. Everything's just reps. The more you do it, the better you get. So
yeah, and then going through that position now to where you are now, and probably like the question that sort of aligns as well, like there was 158 kilo Jack and now there's 135 kilo Jack. How do you, like that mindset, you obviously have taken nearly the same mindset from where you are to now, but obviously learnt along the way to get to where you are. Like, how have you found that to keep that mindset so strong to keep you going? Because it's like you could, as you said, you hit those plateaus, hit those points, but how have you kept going to get that transformation nearly as a person, but as your mindset to keep it the same from when that flick happened?
So I think for me, I've always just had the idea in my head that I'm still not where I want to be. I'm still not where I want to look or feel, or like I feel great, and I've my life itself is in the best spot it's ever been. But I always think like there's more. And I don't know if there's any more unless I try for more. And that's the biggest thing. Like that's where like it almost sounds greedy to an extent, because it's like you want to just keep going until there's nothing left. But at the end of the day, like if I don't think there's more, I'm gonna just kind of get stagnant, and then I might go backwards and go to where I am. And over time, like as I've seen my mindset sort of grow, like as I've become more confident, happier, like, I just generally have a better life. I wake up feeling great, walking doesn't hurt my back or my legs or my hips anymore and my ankles, and everything feels good. You kind of get used to that, and that becomes addicting. So it's like, I don't want that to end. And I'm like, if I feel that now, how will I feel, in a year's time when I'm in an even better position? So you kind of, for me, it was always about not getting complacent. I think complacency kills for a lot of people. I'm big on never getting complacent with where I am and always trying to keep growing no matter what. And there's times where I don't want to. There's times where I fucking hate doing some of the things, like whether it's in a cut when I'm super hungry, or I'm doing an hour on the Stairmaster or whatever it might be. But it's just, you just got to do it. And at the end of the day, inaction kills people. And I think that you pick something to do and just do it to the best of your ability for a long time, you're going to get pretty good at it and you're going to enjoy it to an extent. So yeah, I think my mindset I think my mindset as well is a little bit of like a rarer mindset to have, where it's like I've got a pretty bulletproof mindset. If I put my mind to do something, I'm just going to do it, because at the end of the day, I've told myself I'm going to do it, and I don't want to let myself or anyone down. So I'm just going to do it. And I think that pressure, I thrive in that pressure, where some people don't. Some people hate it. So I think you just got to find, as you evolve through your journey, you're going to sort of find what works and what has kept you sort of going, but you never want to lose sight of that. And for me, it was that there's always something more. Like they say the grass isn't always greener on the other side. In my head, it is. In my head, there's always greener grass, and I'm going to find the greener grass, and that's what I'm chasing. So yeah, that's how I look at it. So
yeah, that's cool. And then you sort of said there, telling yourself you're going to do something. Like a lot of people come unstuck with, it's like you make a bet on yourself, or tell yourself like, I'm going to go to the gym today, I'm going to do this. How do you find that, like, staying true to yourself and not actually lying to yourself, which has showed a lot in your journey, because you've come up to a thing, the lights come on and you've done it.
yeah.
Like, how do you've stuck really hard at that, like that tick. How do
Yeah.
you find that?
I think for me, it was. Can you repeat that? Sorry, I just went blank.
Yeah, how do you find like not lying to yourself and actually staying true to what you say to yourself?
So for me, at the end of the day, every single day you wake up with yourself. You've got people around you, but you are with yourself 24/7. For me, it's if the only thing I've got as a man is my word. That's the one thing I have that I can be true to at all times. And for me, if I say I'm going to do something, there is no reason for me not to do it unless I physically can't, or there is something massive that comes up that doesn't let me, because I don't necessarily do anything to prove it to anyone else or other people. Like at the end of the day, personally for me, I actually don't give a fuck what anyone thinks of me. Now, like back in the day I used to, now I couldn't care less. Cool. If you don't like me, cool. If you love me, even better. Like I really don't care. So for me, it's if I can say to myself, I'm going to do something and I can do it, then that's going to translate into all other aspects of life as well. So like being a man of my word for me is something that I hold very close. And that's kind of where I never let myself slip. If I say I'm going to do something, I will always try and do it to my best of my ability. If there's some reason I can't, even if I give 80% to something, but I've only got 80% to give to it, that's 100% still for me. So I'm still being a man of my word if I can't give everything to something, but I'm trying to. So yeah, I think for me, it's just the only thing I've got as a man is my word. And if I can stick true to that, then on my morals and my ethics, I'm living how I want to live. So yeah.
That's true, because a lot of people do it for external validation nearly at these day and age, or
Yeah.
want to look good on social media, but then don't, behind closed doors, they're not doing what they're promoting or saying as well.
Yeah, and I think personally for a lot of people, if they're going through a weight loss journey, at the start, the external stuff is important because that's what they've never had. So I think people complimenting you and stuff, that's a little bit of fire to keep you going. But then you've kind of got to shift it as you get through your journey, because you're not going to get compliments forever. Because at the end of the day, people see you've lost weight. Cool, you've lost weight. They probably complimented you when you were looking better. They don't really give a fuck anymore because you've done it. So at the end of the day, you've got to kind of shift that perspective and be like, all right, I still love getting compliments from people. I still like when people say I've done a good job, whatever. But internally, there is more important things for me, and that's what keeps me going. And that's what I think everyone needs to find. If you always just stick to the external validation all the way through your journey, there's going to be a point where the external validation doesn't exist as heavily anymore, and you think you're not doing as well, and that's where you go downhill. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's an easy thing, as you said at the start. That external validation is so high, it's like then you chase that, then it stops, and then you're like, oh fuck, like what am I doing it for now?
Exactly.
Like, and that's where you've said you did it for yourself, because you're like, I want to be able to get up out of bed, I want to be able to get through a full days of work,
Exactly.
and actually feel good, and not feel like shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Yeah. No, and how'd you find that? Like, obviously coming back and being in the construction side of thing, and as we mentioned before we started, like having clients come to you who are in the construction game, in that industry, of like easy tips and tricks, or just general advice for people in the construction game of actually what to eat. And obviously most jobs are pretty physical as well. So it's like day to day to not just wake up, have a fucking can of V, have a meat pie on the way to work. Like, what are even some of the worst things you've seen that people come to you and they're fucking eating day to day, and you're like, no wonder you feel like shit?
Yeah.
Like,
so worst things is probably like, they wake up, it's either no breakfast at all, or it's like, yeah, I grab a couple of sausage rolls from the servo with an ice break or something like that. And it's like, or a dare. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's it. We can work with that. And then it's like, yeah, lunch, the food truck comes, we grab a burger off the food truck, cost you $15 and it's shit. But anyway, cost you like, they get in a burger and, a couple dimmies for lunch or something off the food truck, or they just don't have lunch at all. Then it comes to dinner time and they're starving. Or on the way from dinner, they stop at the servo to get fuel and they grab something else, whether it's a chocolate bar, some lollies, an ice cream, whatever it may be. They stop through Macca's to get a Coke or like something simple. And then they get to dinner. Dinner's great. Dinner's their healthiest meal of the day. It's home cooked. It's fantastic, but it's fucking enormous. And that's where they go downhill. And then they have dinner and they're just sitting on the couch, not ready for bed yet, but they're kind of just chilling out, doing nothing. And then they start to snack, and snacks are never good, especially if people have kids. It's always the kids' snacks that they tend to snack on, and they're never good when an adult gets their hands on those. Or it could be just something in the cupboard or the fridge, whatever. So the worst days are always people that are just spending money on takeaway foods all the time. And I used to be guilty of that too. Like I used to work in the CBD sometimes, and the amount of food that's in the CBD, you never have to take lunch if you don't want to. You buy lunch every single day if you want to. And if you're making good money doing what you're doing, there's no reason to save the money and not eat, takeout. But what I always say to people is have a consistent breakfast just to start with. Like it could be something small. It could be, it could be an egg and bacon muffin, just one of them. It could just be, some toast. It could be something really simple, but just get in the habit of having something before you go to work. Have a coffee with it if you want at home. Grab a coffee on the way. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. But make a small change to start your day, because that's going to already set you up to feel better through the day. If you don't have lunch, have lunch. Now, when I was working in construction, it was easy. It was like wraps or, chicken salad if I was really dieting pretty hard, or like just something simple, sandwiches you make the night before, chuck them in the fridge, chuck them in the lunchbox and take them to work. Like it doesn't have to be that hard. Bit of fruit, maybe a couple muesli bars just to get you through the day if you're hungry. When you're on the way home, you don't actually need to eat anything. It's just habit because people stop. So just don't. And then when you get home for dinner, have whatever's for dinner if you want to. If it's like a normal dinner that the family's having, just be smarter with how much you have. You don't have to eat until you're about to fucking pop. You can be satisfied with what you're eating. And if you go to bed a little bit hungry, good. That's not a bad thing. You don't need to be chock-a-block by the time you go to bed. You can be a little bit hungry. It means your food's digesting. It's doing what it's meant to be doing. You have a good sleep because you're not full of food. And you actually feel better when you wake up, and that starts to compound over a couple of weeks. You'll probably both drop weight automatically and feel better. And then on top of that, let's say you go for a walk around the block every night just to start moving a little bit more. Even though your job's physical, having a consistent sort of routine will pay dividends in the end. And then eventually that'll start to slow down, and that's when you need to get a little bit more into it. But for most people, move a tiny bit more. Let's fuel the body with a little bit better shit, and then you'll be fucking 10 times better than the position you're already in. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's picking those healthier choices that have actually got a bit of protein in them, not just full of carbs and sugar and shit as well. 90% of the times it's easy to just grab whatever's there, and not, as you said, not an understanding for what nutrition is or what's actually in food as well.
Yeah, and like that, it doesn't matter if you don't know what a fucking calorie is or what a macro is. It doesn't matter if you don't know what protein does or fat does or carbs do. Like it doesn't matter. But if you just think, all right, I'm going to eat a pretty good source of protein. I'm going to try and eat some more fruit and veg because I know that's going to be important for me, and keep the carb sources to like bread, rice, pasta, something simple. Already that will make a big change. The inflammation that will come off people's body just by eating more fruit and vegetables alone will drop weight, and then they'll feel better. Their joints won't ache. They won't be so fucked every day. So yeah,
it's very true. The little changes, as you said, that can make a massive difference and actually have a bit of consistency inside their habits and lifestyle as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we'll nearly wrap it up soon anyway. I'd love to hear your stories. Anything you want to touch on or anything that comes to mind?
I just think like for most people, if I can touch on just people in general real quick, is if you haven't started, start. That's the biggest thing. Most people just are too scared. Do something, please. Because if I never did anything at the point I was at, I would be dead right now. And to think, it was 6 years ago when I started. So to think right now I may not be sitting here, that's enough to scare most people. And unfortunately, we love to be scared as people, and we need to be scared to get into something. And most people wait for a health scare to do something. Just start. Just do something. Walk the dog more. Take the kids out to the park. Like for people with kids, imagine feeling fit enough to play with your kids flat out, to run around, to kick a footy with like your son if you've got a son or anything like that. Like people don't realize the improvement on their life if they spend you know, a couple hours on a weekend preparing some meals, if they spend, you know, 3-4 hours a week in the gym, if they, you know, go for a walk every night, that's not a lot. And it could add years to your life. Years. Like you'll watch your grandkids grow up. Whereas the alternative is you probably don't. So if there's one thing I've got for most people, it is do something and do it now. Don't wait.
Yep.
So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's a good piece of advice. It's like, yeah, don't wait for that moment of when that health scare comes.
yeah,
Of like, oh, yeah, that'll be when I make a change, because then you'll have it and you don't make the change.
yeah, and it's too late. If you're waiting for a health scare, it means your body's not happy. So you're already killing it. So, and most people, like blood pressure for most people's blood pressure are pretty elevated, especially if they're overweight. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's like it only needs to be like a few points above systolic and diastolic to take years off your life. And if you have that over a long period of time, you're killing yourself. You are killing yourself.
Yeah.
So
It's one of the hidden probably things that people don't think of as well. It's like,
yeah,
you don't check it that often.
nah. Most of my clients are like, I'm not checking my fucking blood pressure. I'm like, check it, please. I just need to know. So yeah, I think that's probably the something I could leave with people.
Yeah, no, I love it, bro. And thanks for jumping on today and hearing your story and picking your brain about the journey you've come on so far, and the growth you've had has been pretty amazing. So
no stress. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, bro. Peace out. Bye.
Sweet.